If there's one thing I want to do today, it's to convince you that leaders don't need to have opinions. So let's start. Joseph was a new officer in UT Sciences Toastmasters, and he was really looking forward to his new leadership role. A few weeks into his role, however, he realized something weird. Although during the spring semester, meetings were so full, members were practically fighting over each other to, get a speech slot or do roles. A few weeks into the summer, it was a real big struggle trying to fill roles because membership had halved. A bunch of members had left to go home or to take internships. And Joseph, as one of the few officers left in Austin, felt like it was his responsibility to figure this out. How could he keep things running with such few members? He had to do something about the situation and work really fast. Now, Joseph mentioned to another older member about his dilemma, how he felt like the few 7 to 10 members that were always coming to meetings during the summer were burdened with, doing double roles, and he didn't want all of the burden to fall on them. Now, this older member kind of dismissed his concerns a little bit, and he said, summer meetings are maybe smaller, but they're pretty intimate, and I think members like it, especially if they're experienced. I mean, double roles aren't an issue. They can even take triple roles. Now, Joseph wasn't really happy with this member's response, and he decided to take matters into his own hands. In the next general meeting, he decided that, which was in a few days, he decided that he was going to have a business meeting to hold a vote about whether to cancel summer meetings or not. He didn't want to wait too long because he felt that if he waited too long, the morale of the club would tank with these fewer members. So before I tell you about the results of the vote, let's do a quick show of hands. How many of you guys think that meetings were canceled as a result of this vote? Okay, it looks like 2 people. Cool. How many of you guys think that meetings were not canceled? Okay, looks like we have a majority. The majority wins in this case because what happened in the vote was that unanimously, everyone who attended the business meeting voted to keep the summer meetings in place. Now, Joseph was really shocked. He didn't understand. Like, the single dissenting vote was his own. And one by one, the members started speaking up. So, for example, they said that even if a lot of members were out of town, they wanted to keep practicing and they didn't want to have to go to another club just because it was a summer. A lot of people liked the smaller meetings because it was more intimate and they got to like do experimental speech styles or try different types of meetings. And the funny thing is that Joseph didn't actually need to hold a business meeting to find these things out. If he had just talked to a few more members like he did with that one member, he would have realized that the majority of the club liked summer meetings. And for some, this was how they had found out about the club in the first place. Some of you may not know this, but UT Sciences Toastmasters is one of the few clubs at UT that operate the whole summer. So for those people who are still in Austin without a bunch of their friends during this time, it's a great opportunity to get involved with something. Joseph didn't know this because he himself had never attended summer meetings, but he was kind of letting his own experience color his perspective. He had been so certain about him having the right perspective that he hadn't bothered to actually ask members what they thought without taking a drastic measure. And the funny thing is, this drastic measure actually did more to affect the morale of the club than any other thing that he had feared. I wanted to give you guys this example to illustrate why leaders don't need to have opinions. And this is not a hypothetical example, by the way. This is a real example, even if I've removed some identifying information. This happened the club in a few years back. What I want to stress to you guys is that the most important quality in a leader is to listen to members at all levels of your organization, and not just listen, but listen without judgment. I mean, you're obviously allowed to have an opinion, but if you see counterexamples and facts which are counter to what you think, then you need to update that opinion. And you don't always have to be right to be a leader either, but you do have to be willing to accept when you are wrong. So Sadala and Arushi, for example, as much as I love them, they're not always right. I know this might be shocking to you guys. But what they do is that if anyone in this room ever reached out to them with a concern, they would do their best to address this concern. And that's what makes them a good leader. This is not a paid endorsement, by the way. No money was exchanged in this process. For anyone in the room, no matter what sort of leader you are, or no matter what capacity, I really encourage you to listen to the people in your organization. Listen without judgment, and don't be too tied to your perspective or opinions. Because if you don't listen to them, you might miss out on some really valuable information and be blindsided like Joseph was. In fact, what might happen is that people might not feel comfortable coming to you anymore, and you'll use a wealth of valuable information. What I want to suggest to you guys is that next time you have a dilemma or concern, talk to the members in your tribe, ask them what they think, and try to get the facts, and then make a decision. You can certainly have an opinion, but just update the opinion based on what you find with those conversations. Listen where, well, and keep listening. Thank you.